All right, chapter 6, page 100. I thought at first that Gwydion's riddle about Ser Erenhad was to be completed with and the whirling round without motion between three elements. The three elements are clearly fire, air, and water, and the corona borealis revolves in a very small space compared with the southern constellations. Gwydon must have been taught that Erenhad's castle does not lie within the Arctic Circle, which includes the two bears and the bear warden, and that when the sun rises in the house of the crab, it begins to dip over the northern horizon and does not free itself until the summer is over. To describe it as whirling round without motion would have been inaccurate. Only the little bear does so, pivoted on the pole star. As I show in Chapter 10, the whirling round is part of the riddle to which the answer is Rhea, but I will not anticipate the argument at this point. Yet even if I knew the meaning of a period in the castle of I'm just going to keep calling it Erenhad because I don't know how to say it. Erenhad, could I answer the riddle? Who spent 3 periods there? The sequence of I have been or I am, the earliest of them indisputably pre-Christian, which occur in so many bardic poems of Wales and Ireland, seem to have several different, though related senses. The primitive belief is plainly not in individual metapsychosis of the vulgar Indian sort, at one time a blue bottle, at the next a flower, at the next perhaps a Brahmini bull or a woman according to one's merit. The I is the Apollo-like god on whose behalf the inspired poet sings, not the poet himself. Sometimes the god may be referring mythically to his daily cycle as the sun from dawn to dawn, sometimes his yearly cycle from winter solstice to winter solstice, with the months as stations of his progress, perhaps sometimes even to his grand cycle of 25,800 years around the zodiac. All these cycles are types of one another, as we will speak either of the evening or autumn of our lives when we mean old age. The commonest I have been reference is to the yearly cycle, and to examine these seasonal I have beens, though for reasons of discretion the order has always been deliberately confused, is usually to find that they contain a complete series of round-the-year symbols. I am water, I am wren, I am workman, I am star, I am serpent, I am cell, I am chink, I am depository of song, I am learned person, etc. Though the Pythagorean theory of metempsychosis, imported from the Greek colonies in southern France, has been suspected in the Irish legend of Tuan Macarel, one of the royal immigrants from Spain, who went through the successive metamorphosis of stag, boar, hawk, and salmon before being born as a man. This is unlikely. The 4 beasts are all seasonal symbols, as will be shown. The poetic language of myth and symbol used in ancient Europe was not, in principle, a difficult one, but became confused with the passage of time by frequent modifications due to religious, social, and linguistic change, and by the tendency of history to taint the purity of myth. That is to say, the accidental events in the life of a king who bore a divine name were often incorporated in the seasonal myth, which gave him the title to royalty. A further complication was that anciently, a large part of poetic education, to judge from the Irish book of Ballymote, which contains a manual of cryptography, was concerned with making the language as difficult as possible in order to keep the secret close. In the first 3 years of his educational course, the Irish student for the Olavship had to master 150 cipher alphabets. What is the relation of Ser City to Ser Erenhad? Were they the same place? I think not, because Ser City has been identified with Puffin Island off the coast of Anglesey and with Lundy Island in the Severn. Both of them islands elysiums of the usual type. A clue to the problem is that though Saor City and Saor Sidon mean revolving castle in Welsh, and though revolving islands are common in Welsh and Irish legend, the word city is apparently a translation of the Goidelic word Sidhi, a round borough fortress belonging to the Ass City. City, or Ace City? Sidhi for short. The prime magicians of Ireland. There are several fortresses of the Sidhi in Ireland, the most remarkable ones being Brugh na Boyne, now called Newgrange, Noth and Doth, on the northern banks of the River Boyne. Their date and religious use must be considered in detail. Newgrange is the largest and is said to have been originally occupied by the Dagda himself, the Tuatha De Danann father god who corresponds with the Roman Saturn, but afterwards by his Apollo-like son Angus, who won it from him by a legal quibble. The Dagda, on the first arrival in Ireland, was evidently a son of the triple goddess Bridget, the High One. But the myth has been tampered with by successive editors. First, he is said to have married the triple goddess. Then he is said to have had only one wife with three names, Breg, Mang, and Mabel, Lie, Guile, and Disgrace, who bore him three daughters, all called Bridget. Then it is said that not he, but three of his descendants, Brian, Uchar, and Ucharba, married three princesses who together owned Ireland, Ire, Fodhla, and Banba. He was the son of Eldu, which the Irish glossarists explain as science or knowledge, but which may be a form of the Greek elate, fir tree. Eltos, fireman, was an early Archaean king of Selene, a mountain in Arcadia sacred to Demeter and later renowned for its college of learned and sacrosanct heralds. The Dagda and Eltos may thus both be equated with Osiris or Adonis or Dionysus, who was born from a fir and mothered by the horned moon goddess Isis or Io or Hathor. Newgrange is a flat-topped, round borough about a quarter of a mile in circumference and 50 feet high, but it is built of heaped stones, some 50,000 tons of them, not of earth, and was originally covered with white quartz pebbles, a Bronze Age sepulchral practice in honor of the white goddess, which may account in part for the legends of kings housed after death in glass castles. 10 enormous stone herms, weighing 8 or 10 tons apiece, stand in a semicircle around the southern base of the borough, and one formerly stood at the summit. It is not known how many more have been removed from the semicircle, but the gap suggests an original set of 12. A hedge of about 100 long flat stones set edge to edge rings the base around. Deep inside the borough is a pre-Celtic passage burial cave built with great slabs of stone, several of them measuring as much as 7 feet by 4. The ground plan is the shape of a Celtic cross. One enters by a dolmen door at the base of the shaft. The shaft consists of a narrow passage 60 feet long, through which one has to crawl on hands and knees. It leads to a small circular chamber with a beehive corbelled vault 20 feet high, and there are 3 recesses which make the arms of the cross. When this cave was rediscovered in 1699, it contained 3 large empty boat-shaped stone basins, the sides engraved with stripes, 2 complete skeletons lying beside a central altar, stags, antlers, bones, and nothing else. Roman gold coins of the 4th century A.D., gold torques, and remains of iron weapons were later found on the site of the fort, not in the cave. The fort was sacked by the Danes, but there is nothing to show whether they or earlier invaders rifled the chamber of its other funerary furniture. Slabs of the doorway and of the interior are decorated with spiral patterns, and there is forked lightning carved on the lintel. Since the old poets record that each wrath was presided over by an enchantress fortress, and since, as will be shown, the city were such skillful poets that even the druids were obliged to go to them for the spells that they needed. It seems likely that the original Sarah City, where the Cauldron of Inspiration was housed, was a barrow of the New Grange sort, for these barrows were fortresses above the tombs below. The Irish Banshee Fairy is a bean city, woman of the hill. As priestess of the great dead, she wails in prophetic anticipation whenever anyone of royal blood is about to die. From an incident in the Irish romance of Fion's boyhood, it appears that the entrances of these burial caves were left open at Samhain, All Souls' Eve, which was also celebrated as a feast of the dead in ancient Greece, to allow the spirits of the heroes to come out for an airing, and that the interiors were illuminated until cockcrow the next morning. We got 10 minutes. Do I want to stop there? Yes, I'm going to stop there.